All right, welcome everybody. It's 1 o'clock. We'll get started. Want to honor everyone's time. I'm going to go ahead and reshare my screen, make sure everybody's up and ready to go. So you should be able to see my screen now. Alicia, is that good? Can you see it?
Yes, we can see your screen.
All right. Well, welcome everyone. You're here hopefully for the House Bill 1416 ratio waiver list information. We'll also have our vendor fair near the end of the webinar today. So glad you're able to join us. We are recording this session, at least the first 30 minutes or so that we can post this to our webpage for those that aren't able to attend today. So thank you for taking time out. Many of you may have already started your summer break. Or will soon be on summer break. But we hope to have some great information for you today. Again, with me today, Alicia Garcia. Alicia, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Alicia Garcia. I'm the Texas Tutoring and Content Specialist here at TEA. Nice to be here with all of you.
And I'm Colby Self, Director of Texas Tutoring Supports. Again, glad you're able to join us today. Just overview of the purpose, provide an overview of the House Bill 1416 ratio waiver list and offer school systems an opportunity to review vendor materials and participate in office hours with the vendors selected for the 24-25 school year. So we'll start off with around a 20-minute overview of the ratio waiver list. We'll have an opportunity to review some of the FAQs that we've already received if possible. Review some of the questions and provide answers. So if you do have questions, there should be a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. If you'd like to post some questions, we'll take time throughout the presentation to try to answer those time permitting. A good portion of the webinar from 1:30 to 3 is an asynchronous review. The vendor provided materials. I'm going to have Alicia put a link to the website, the ratio waiver, House Bill 1416 ratio waiver list website you'll need to reference. We'll navigate to that later, but you'll need to queue that up in your browser. That's going to be a key jumping off point to look at materials. And then we'll have our vendor office hours, and we'll go over those links. So if you're not able to do it right now, that's okay. We'll have time to get that queued up here in a little bit. But the reason we're here and just talk about in general is there's still struggles to recover. I know STAR scores came out recently, and these are scores from last year. But as we update scores from this year, we still have identified struggles in math, especially recovering from the COVID pandemic. Just haven't recovered, especially in specific grade levels as quickly as we needed to. And so as we seek to find ways to recover in math and language arts, tutoring's been identified as a key component if implemented effectively with high quality materials as a way to support students in their growth. While reading has seen some growth and some recovery, it's still not where it needs to be overall with that. As you know, Texas law requires accelerated instruction under House Bill 1416, which was passed with the 88th regular session. There's two pathways for students that failed to perform satisfactorily. We do have the TIA designated teacher in the appropriate subject area, or there is the accelerated instruction in the appropriate subject area. No less than 15 or 30 hours, depending on the student performance. And it is limited now to two subject areas where we prioritize math and reading language arts. 1416 did change the ratio. We're now at a 4-to-1 ratio maximum. So that was a change from 45-45. And it also did talk about that there's still a need to have effective instructional materials that are designed for supplemental instruction. And the tutor can be a person. It does not have to be a certified teacher, but the person that is providing the tutoring must be trained in the applicable instructional materials. So keep that in mind. That's still in effect. Nothing with that has changed.
Right. I wanted to take this opportunity, Kobe, to clarify that for TIA designation, the teacher has to be TIA designated at the time that students are rostered into his or her classroom. And so if the teacher doesn't receive the designation until May, then the teacher cannot offer that accelerated instruction. until the subsequent school year. I just wanted to take a time to clarify since we've had those questions come up recently.
Thanks, Alicia. And that's been a big question we've received with the expansion of TIA designation across the state, which is great to hear. We often get that question about that. So thanks for clarifying that. So more specifically about the ratio waiver list in statute, it does call for the agency to approve one or more products that use an automated, computerized, or other augmented method in lieu or some or part of individual group instruction. The only if the evidence indicates that the product is more effective than individual or group instruction. So this does require a high bar for the products that are included on the list we're going to review today, and it does require a process which we'll go over. But a note here is that you still may use any curricular tool that you choose to use, or you may already be implementing to meet the House Bill 1416 requirements, as long as you follow the 4-to-1 student to teacher ratio. That's been a common question we're getting is, I can no longer use XYZ product we've been implementing. No, you may still use those products and follow the 4-to-1 ratio. And we'll talk to you a little bit more about how this new list, and it's a new tool that you can use and implement and follow some specific guidelines to meet the needs of your students. So an overview, just a list of this. And if you received the TAA last week, it's going to follow that guidelines, or those guidelines outlined in the TAA as well. But just a high level overview is the products were evaluated based on product efficacy, looking at the rigor of research, supporting that efficacy, and promoting student independence, or the opportunity for student independence. So we also want to ensure that there's alignment with the accelerated instruction requirements and the TEKS, the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. School systems are responsible for contracting and funding the product of their choice. TEA did not conduct a suitability review of the products. Vendors are required to meet the SBOE suitability requirements to remain on the list. And school systems are responsible for ensuring instructional materials meet local suitability standards and state requirements, such as requirements with specific education code pertaining to Children's Internet Protection Act and other penal codes associated with that. So there is a burden still on LEAs when it comes to contracting with vendors. And we do hold these vendors to these expectations as well as part of being on this list. Alicia, I'll turn it over to you to talk more about the evaluation.
Thank you, Kobe. So the evaluation of this product was a two-part process. And so the next slide will tell you a little bit more about the first part. TEA conducted an initial review of the content that the vendor submitted. So in the first part, we just looked to ensure that the product aligned with statutory requirements. Did the product provide at least 30 hours of supplemental instruction? Did the product provide guides that were aligned to 90% of the text? Did the product provide resources or supports for emergent bilingual students? And did we have presence in Texas schools with this product? But most importantly, we were looking at our primary question, which was, does the product provide evidence that indicates that the product is more effective than individual or group instruction? And so we did not analyze that evidence. We were just ensuring that that evidence was included as part of the submitted application. For the second part, we had a third-party reviewer who analyzed what was submitted by the product. And this consisted of several components. One piece was looking at the progress monitoring tools that the product offered to students and to administrators and teachers. We also looked at the supports that the products provided for student independence, and those supports were rated as high, medium, or low. And so these included the lesson adjustment for students who are struggling, adapting the lessons based on how quickly or how slowly the students were mastering specific targets, and also did the product provide some next steps to support students as they continue to progress as they are using the product. We also looked to see if the recommended research-based usage were adequate metrics for the product. We also looked if the product is more effective than individual or group instruction across populations and across grade levels. And then lastly, the third-party reviewer looked at if the research included rigorous research studies that evaluated the product efficacy. And so we looked at several components, and we kept the bar really high so that to ensure that these products are able to provide the support that these students need.
This was really important, Alicia. I want to stress that the research sources provided, these were provided by the vendor to us for the third-party reviewer, and there were not any additional outside sources sought. So this is what the vendors provided for us to review, or the third party to review, to show the efficacy of their product, that shows that they said what they do and the outcomes of such products. So very important. The rubric provided all these components to align with what the statute said the product should do in that return. Something I wanted to just mention again, and I mentioned this previously, is just the suitability review. We did not conduct a full suitability review, even though the vendors are saying we are going to comply with the SBOE requirements and align with suitability. They are required to maintain the suitability standard in alignment with statute. But just be sure as an LEA, as you're reviewing and discussing these products with the vendors today, and as you review the products internally, you're conducting your own suitability review within local contexts. If you do request changes to vendors, there is a feedback log they're sharing with us so that we're aware of what changes may be requested or made at the request of LEAs. So we're aware of what's being requested and if there are or are not changes that are being made with specific products here. Alicia, do you want to talk a little bit about the abbreviated timeline for this year and our upcoming timeline for the next coming years?
Sure. So this year we were able to start with our review process mid-March. We were also working on rulemaking, so we wanted to ensure that both processes were aligning. And so we did open up applications to vendors in the middle of March. We closed that application window middle of April, and that's when we began looking to ensure that, first of all, the applications had been submitted, all the content was complete, and then we handed it over to our third-party reviewer. They reviewed the products, and then we had our list finalized at the end of May, and then we were able to have our commissioner approve, and then we had those products, the list of products ready for you. And so we understand that some of you were anxious to see the list, but we wanted to ensure that we did a thorough job and that this list would be one that would definitely impact student performance. And so we took our time. We didn't want to rush through this. And then for next year, we are going to open up the process again in the fall. Our target date is in September. Vendors get to those who are not approved or who are interested in being included in our list get to submit their applications in September, and then we'll continue through this process again. We foresee finishing, or we anticipate finishing in February, so that you may have the list ready for you in a more timely manner so that you can make decisions for the following school year.
Yeah, we understand that there's specific cycles for campus improvement, district improvement plan development, budgeting. Many things have to go through board approval. So we are trying to adjust that timeline accordingly for this process so that you have the ability to review products and go through the appropriate timelines needed for future cycles of these products here. Just a review of the products. If you haven't had a chance to look at what's available, we do have 2 math products and 3 RLA products, which you'll have time to review today. We do have the various grade levels covered under House Bill 1416, but more broadly, there's broader grade coverage. If you look at the overall grade coverages that the products have available, many are covering, some are covering pre-K through 12 for math and language arts. So that might play into consideration as you look at the various products and their coverage availability. And many of these products or many of these vendors may already be in use in your district. So that may work out well for you in that respect. Alicia, do you have anything to add? Okay,
No, Kobe.
thank you. And this chart and other information will be on our website, and we're going to navigate there here shortly as part of the asynchronous time. So this information will be available with their web pages as well. One thing we wanted to mention is there's still the importance of the classroom teacher here. The classroom teacher delivering, using high quality instructional materials, delivering tier 1 instruction, and in this case, helping monitor the supplemental instructional materials and how they're being used, even in the absence of a tutor. So the ratio waiver list does allow for the waiver of that in-person tutor, but the effect of the teacher is still present. We know from Hattie's research, meta-analysis in 2011, the impact of the teacher is very, very important to the overall outcomes of students. And don't want this to undermine that in any way, but it even adds credence to the effect or the importance of the teacher to ensure that they're still monitoring what students are doing in these tutoring sessions. A lot of times, a lot of schools are using certified teachers. Just a reminder, certified teachers are not required to be a tutor. Just mind you, tutors are just trained. They must be trained in the product for which they're using. So we see a mix of tutors come from different areas. Some cases, certified teachers are being used as tutors. There are options with the ratio waiver list to lighten that burden on our certified teachers to give them time back for other educational tasks, but the monitoring piece is still going to be there for the district to ensure that students are maximizing this time with these products as well. There are going to be some requirements, though, that need to be kept in mind with the use of the ratio waiver list products. And I want to have Alicia kind of go through these with you, and we can talk about these. Again, if you have specific questions, if you'll pop those in the Q&A, we'll try to get to those here at the end of our session.
Thank you, Kobe. So one thing is, when you are planning to use these products, you must notify the parents or guardian that you will be utilizing one of these products to provide the required accelerated instruction. And so if you want to continue to benefit from waiving the ratio requirements, the applicable students must meet minimum product usage requirements for the approved product. And we will be sharing this information on our webpage. Probably by the end of this week, we'll have each product recommendation. You also must ensure that the required hours of supplemental instruction are completed prior to the subsequent STAR administration. And of course, LEAs must assume the responsibility for contracting and funding the selected vendors that have been included on the ratio waiver list. And if you want to, we strongly recommend that you look at the complete rule language so that you can look at the complete rule requirements. And those are included in Chapter 104 of the Texas Administration Code.
Thanks, Alicia. I know one thing that's come up about the contracting and funding I wanted to mention. Many of you may have taken advantage of our vetted Texas tutor core list that we had previously, and we've had questions about the non-competitive list availability for this list as well. That is not going to be available for the House Bill 1416 ratio waiver list products. So I know many of you may be asking for that. That was a list or a document that was able to be obtained that allowed for a streamlining of some local procurement processes. That is not available with this list, unfortunately. Just wanted to put that out there in case that's a question that may come up. Just wanted to be sure to let y'all know that's come up several times already. We have had those some frequently asked questions we want to mention that have come up, and just wanted to surface those. And if you've already put that question in the Q&A, we hopefully can answer that. And if not, we'll definitely make some time to try to answer those. First of all, when can we start using these products? You may already have this set up. You may have students rostered, and you've already have some preliminary data of students that may need hours. You may not quite know if their low or high does not meet yet, but you know that students do need hours, and you may have them rostered and set up. So reminder, you would need to notify parents and provide that documentation to meet that part of the compliance there. But you can start as soon as this summer, and get that up and going here pretty quickly. The other question is there a formal waiver that must be submitted? I know in education, we hear of waiver. There's often the thought of, do I have to file a waiver through TEAL? Do I have to go through the TEAL system to submit a formal waiver? The answer is no. There's not a formal process or application of a paper form or waiver that has to be submitted for this case. Alicia, I'll let you go ahead and take 3 and 4 there if you want.
All right, thank you, Kobe. So we've also been asked, do we need to have additional documentation, or no, you just have to continue to maintain the documentation that is required to fulfill the HB 1416 requirements. So just because you're using the racial waiver list, it doesn't remove anything. You just have to continue to maintain the same documentation. And you will maintain these records locally. And that includes, you know, the completion of hours, what content area, and all that. And some of the products that we have do include those reports are for you, but you will house those locally. What data is being collected and reported to TA by the HB 1416 racial waiver list vendors? The vendors are required to prove efficacy data as part of the renewal process in order to remain on the list. And so for this reason, they will need to collect state unique student IDs to be able to conduct the STAR analysis to match with student usage. And so this is a requirement to renew, to be on this list again. And so that's why they may start asking you for the unique student ID. LEAs are expected to document the hours completed by students for all House Bill 1416 related activities, and you will use this data to submit via PEIMS starting this school year. We do have on our FAQ the guidance or the tables that PEIMS will be using when submitting this data at the end of the school year.
Thanks. And those data tables came out December of this past year. So your student information system vendors have been aware of it, and PEIMS coordinators have been aware of it. And most of y'all have systems in place that have been collecting this data. So not a lot has changed with that. Just be aware that that needs to stay in-house and be maintained, because there will be a PEIMS submission later this year. The other question or consideration is, the vendors are going to need to submit efficacy data as part of the renewal process. So they have a vested interest to ensure that their products are being used with fidelity. So there is also in rule the requirement that if students are going to be using their products in an autonomous way, that it is monitored by the district and ensured that it is being used as intended. So in order to maintain the use of the ratio waiver list and waive that in-person tutor, it is important that that is monitored and kept that way. If there was an issue where there was a complaint filed and it was found that it was not being used as intended, it could result in that waiver being denied or not be able to be used in that capacity, and you would have to go back, or the LEA possibly would have to go back to require a 4-to-1 ratio to be monitored there.
I also wanted to share, Kobe, that the high does not meet, low does not meet. Those tables will be available. We anticipate by June 21st.
Okay. That's one of the other questions we had, so that's good. Thanks, Alicia. So the other question we're also getting is, we're already using a supplemental product, and I alluded to this earlier, that's not on the House Bill 1416 ratio waiver list. Does this mean we must stop using that product and must start using one of these? And the answer is no. In short, no. Many of you have summer school already going, have plans. You may be using another product already set up. You may have your group set up, you're already going. You may continue to use any product you choose if that product complies with the statutory language we talked about. Designed for supplementary instruction, TEAS aligned, delivered by a tutor trained in the product in a 4-to-1 ratio. But reminder, you can also get the parent waiver to change that ratio for a larger size where applicable. So you can still use those products you choose. You're not relegated to use this, the providers specifically on this list. Does the House Bill 1416 ratio waiver list allow for changes to other parts of House Bill 1416? No, these products only waive the 4-to-1 ratio that requires an in-person or virtually provided tutor presence as part of the tutoring hours. The use of these products does not allow any other portion of the statute to be waived. This does mean an increased level of monitoring of the usage fidelity of the products, as we talked about before, and ensure the tools provided by the vendors are monitored on a regular basis to be sure students are on track to meet their 15 or 30 hours prior to the next STAR assessment. Alicia, I'll let you finish this out here.
Thank you, Kobe. And we have had LEAs reach out to us saying, if you do have a product on the list that offers content for other areas that are not necessarily listed on the ratio waiver list, can we use those materials, for example, for science or social studies? The answer is no. Like you may, well, clarify, you may use the product for that supplemental instruction, but you may not waive the 4-to-1 ratio for those subjects since they are not named on the HB 1416 ratio waiver list. So yes, you could use the science or social studies content, but you cannot waive the ratio requirement.
Well, just to recap, we hope we've given you a general overview of the House Bill 1416 ratio waiver list. And now we're going to move on to our next part, the asynchronous review, the vendor provided materials. And then we're going to have a chance for the office hours. So we're going to navigate to the web page next. But first, I want to talk a little bit about some supports that are coming up. We do have the office hour next week, and these links are also on the web page as well. So don't feel like you're missing out when we click off here. There is a registration for the office hour. That's the TEA run registration. You can sign up if you have specific questions. You could come and ask questions specific to your campus, your school. Vendors will not be present for that office hour, but we will share information about their upcoming office hours. But a good spot to get specifics about their office hours or ask specific questions from each of the vendor will be their landing page that we've provided here and is available on the website we're fixing to navigate to as well. And we also have our contact information here, the Texas Tutoring Supports. We can put that in the chat, but also our webpage has that information as well. So as we navigate there, I'm going to seeing the webpage okay?
Yes, Kobe.
Lisa, are you able to see the webpage okay?
Yes, yes.
So when you go to the webpage for the asynchronous review part, which will be starting in about 3 or 4 minutes from 1:30 to 3, you'll come to this top section and it'll have asynchronous review materials for vendor office hours. And it'll have each of our providers. You'll see it's broken down by subjects. You have the 2 math providers at top, IXL and ST Math. And then you'll have the RLA providers below that. If you scroll down, you'll actually see the announcement or the chart as we published in the TAA that has the specific grade levels as a whole and the specific House Bill 1416 applicable grade levels if you need to cross-reference that here. But as you go up, there's a general video that each provider's provided, no longer than 30 minutes if you wanted to get a general sense of what content, what areas their products cover. It's a general website you can navigate to that gives you a little bit more information, general contact information. Many of them have Texas-specific information, including the research, the efficacy research behind their product is often linked there as well. And Alicia did drop the link in the chat. I know some people may have joined late. So Alicia, can you put that link again in the chat for people?
Sure.
And then starting about 3 o'clock, so 3 to 4 o'clock hour, this is a specific office hour. Some providers may be in there earlier than 3, but not a guarantee. But from 3 to 4, you may join an office hour for any one of these providers, and it's a come and go session. You're not required to stay the full time, but you may come and go. They're expecting you to come, ask questions. If you need more specific information, we do have some of the same vendors, but they are going to have unique office hours for their specific subjects. So even though IXL is representing math and language arts, they will have separate office hours for each subject. And that office hour is a Zoom link. It's not a registration, so it'll take you directly to Zoom link on that. So again, for the next 1:30 to 3, you have a chance to review the video asynchronously, go to the website. We'll remain in this webinar. If you have specific questions, you have problems, we check the links multiple times. Things should be set up and ready to go. And then the office hours will be here will be available as well. We'll remain in this and be available for you if you have any questions or have any problems.